Once you've logged in to the MikroTik web interface, you'll see a number of options on the left-hand side. You need to find Radius in the list and then click. The Radius box will appear. First, we need to click on the plus sign, and then from the Services list, we're going to tick the Hotspot box. We then need to enter the IP address, and in this example, we'll just use 1234, and then entering the secret. You then need to check that the authentication port is set up 1812 and the accounting port is set to 1813. We can then click the OK button. The window will close. We now need to click the plus button again and then Hotspot. Then we need to enter the IP address. We'll use 5678 in this example and then also enter the secret again. Check the authentication port is set to 1812 and the account port at 1813. We can then click the OK button. The window will close. We'll have finished entering our Radius details now, so we can click the small X in the top right-hand corner. Now we need to go back onto the left-hand side and find IP. The list will expand, and then we need to scroll down and select Hotspot. The Hotspot window will open, and you'll default to the server profiles. We need to click the first tab, which is Servers. From here, we now need to scroll across and click onto the Hotspot Setup button. Another window will open with the drop-down box. We need to click this drop-down, scroll to the bottom and select Ether 5 and then click the Next button. Next is the local address of network. We need to enter the IP address here, which is 10.1.0.1/24, and then click the Next button. The next screen is the address pool of network, so we can keep this as the default and click Next. The next option is Select Certificate. I'm going to keep this as None and click Next. We then have IP of SMTP server again. We're going to keep this as the default and click the Next button. Then we have the DNS server. The first box we can keep as it is, but I'm going to click the down chevron. And then in the next box, we're going to enter 8.8.4.4 and then click the Next button. Finally, we have the DNS name. We can leave this blank and then click Next. The window will close and you'll see a message appearing saying Setup has completed successfully. So you just need to click the OK button. The hotspot details we just entered will appear. And what we need to do now is underneath Name, where it says Hotspot 1, we need to double-click. The hotspot window will open, displaying the details. And at the top, where we have Name, it will display Hotspot 1, but we need to change this. So on the list on the left-hand side, I'm going to click Interfaces. Interfaces areas will appear, and you'll see a box displaying the interface list. What we need to do is click onto Ether 1. The Ether 1 box details will appear, and we need to highlight the MAC address. Right-click and select Copy. We've now finished with this window, so we can click the small X in the top right-hand corner. Clicking back into a hotspot box, we now need to delete the name, right-click and paste. The MAC address we just copied will appear, and we now need to change all the colons to hyphens. Now scroll down to the idle timeout and click the upward chevron to turn off. Then click the OK button. The hotspot server window will close. We now need to scroll across the tabs at the top and select Server Profiles. The server profiles will appear, and we need to select the bottom option. The hotspot server profile window will appear, and we first need to click the Login tab at the top. First, we need to untick the HTTP CHAP field box and then tick the HTTP PAP field box. We then need to click the Radius tab at the top of the screen. Click the tick box, Use Radius. Scroll down to MAC format, click the drop-down and then select the second option with the hyphens. We then need to click on the Interim Update and enter 000200. We then need to scroll up to the top and click the OK button. The window will close. We now need to go back up to the tabs at the top and select User Profiles. User Profiles will load, and the one displayed is called Default, so we need to click onto this. The hotspot user profile will load, and the first thing you need to do is change the session time to 24:00:00. Next, click the idle timeout. I'm going to change this to 00:30:00. We now need to scroll over to the right and click the OK button. The window will close. We've now finished with user profiles for this hotspot, so we click the small X. The hotspot window will close. We need to scroll over to the left-hand side to the list and select New Terminal. The New Terminal window will open, and what we need to do now is go to the guide and copy the wall garden text that's available. Come back to this window, right-click your mouse, select Paste. The walled garden text will then appear. We can now close the window by clicking the small X. In this final stage, we need to upload some files. So the first thing we need to do is open Notepad. And again, going back to the guide, we need to copy the HTML text. Click back onto Notepad, right-click and select Paste. The copied text will appear, so we now need to save this. So clicking File, Save, then navigate to where you're going to save your file. So Desktop, for example, and then name it login.html. Now click the Save button. The file is now saved. We now need to create a new one. So clicking File, New. Going back to the guide, copying the last bit of HTML text, going back to Notepad, pasting the details into here. The copied text will appear. And again, we need to save. So clicking File, Save As. This time we're going to say this is called a login.html. And again, clicking Save. We've now finished with a notepad, so we can click the small X to close the window. We need to go back onto the left-hand side, find Files, and click your mouse. Now you're going to drag and drop those files into this area. So selecting the first file from wherever you've saved it, dragging and dropping onto the hotspot folder. Then getting the second file and again dragging and dropping onto the hotspot folder. Both of these files will now be overwritten. So we have the alogin.html and then also the login.html. We can now close the window by clicking the small X. The MikroTik is now set up and ready to work with Purple.